Imagine a region already ravaged by decades of tension, teetering on the edge of erupting into conflict at any given moment. In 1987, a new force emerged from the shadows of the Muslim Brotherhood, one that would forever alter the landscape of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, Hamas. But to truly understand this organization, we need to explore the deep historical currents that carried it into existence. From the ashes of war, occupation, and uprising, the roots of Hamas run deep in a land scarred by decades of struggle. The story of Hamas begins long before its founding. In fact, the seeds of its rise were planted in the aftermath of the 1967 Six-Day War, when Israel captured the West Bank, Gaza Strip, and East Jerusalem. This was a turning point for the Palestinians, who now found themselves living under Israeli occupation. Decades of frustration simmered beneath the surface as displacement, economic hardships, and political turmoil took their toll. By 1987, the region was a pressure cooker, and the first Palestinian intifada, an uprising against Israeli occupation, was the spark that set it off. During this volatile period, a group of Palestinian activists, aligned with the Muslim Brotherhood, broke away to form a new movement, Hamas. Their objective, to resist Israeli occupation and establish an Islamic state in all of historic Palestine. Hamas didn't just aim to be another political faction in the Palestinian territories. It was forged with a very specific ideology in mind. In 1988, the group released its now infamous charter. This document called for the destruction of Israel and the establishment of an Islamic state over all of Palestine. The language was uncompromising, and the charter openly rejected any negotiations or peace deals with Israel. For Hamas, the struggle was existential, rooted in faith, politics, and identity. But in 2017, something significant shifted. Hamas amended its original charter, signaling a willingness to accept a Palestinian state along the pre-1967 borders, but without recognizing Israel's right to exist. This was not exactly a complete ideological transformation, but a strategic move to stay relevant in a rapidly evolving geopolitical landscape. Was this a softening of their stance or merely a tactical pivot? To understand Hamas, we need to examine its relationship with another key player in Palestinian politics, Fatah. While both movements shared the same overarching goal of Palestinian liberation, their methods and ideologies differed greatly. Fatah, the backbone of the Palestinian Liberation Organization, PLO, advocated for a more secular and pragmatic approach to achieving statehood. Unlike Hamas, Fatah was open to negotiations with Israel and even engaged in the peace process, notably during the Oslo Accords of the 1990s. The differences between these two factions came to a head in the 2006 Palestinian legislative elections, where Hamas shocked the world by winning a majority of seats. The election results deepened the political divide between Hamas and Fatah, culminating in a bloody conflict in 2007 that left Hamas in control of Gaza and Fatah maintaining authority in the West Bank. This split created two Palestinian realities, one under Hamas's rule in Gaza and the other under Fatah in the West Bank. Hamas' rise to political prominence was coupled with its increasing militarization. From the outset, Hamas relied on a variety of tactics, many of which thrust the group into the international spotlight. In the 1990s, Hamas became notorious for its use of suicide bombings as a weapon against Israeli civilians and military targets. These attacks escalated the violence and entrenched the conflict in a seemingly endless cycle of retaliation. As Hamas solidified its grip on Gaza, it shifted its strategy, incorporating rocket attacks, tunnel infiltrations, and ambushes into its playbook. This led to a series of devastating confrontations with Israel, starting with Operation Cast Lead in 2008, followed by major clashes in 2012, 2014, and the most recent escalation in 2023. And now, in 2024, Another major attack has ignited fresh violence between Hamas and Israel, once again plunging the region into crisis. In October 2023, Hamas launched an unprecedented attack on Israel with the suspected backing and strategic advice of Iran. The attack caught Israel off guard, leading to an escalation that rapidly evolved into full-scale conflict. Just as the region seemed to be stabilizing, the conflict erupted again in October 2024 with a new wave of Hamas attacks, further exacerbating tensions between Israel, Hamas, and Iran. These attacks have drawn fresh scrutiny on Iran's role in the conflict and how its support for Hamas continues to inflame violence in the region. While the political and military aspects of Hamas are well known, it's important to acknowledge the human toll of their rule and the ongoing conflict. Since taking control of Gaza in 2007, Hamas has faced an Israeli blockade, repeated military offensives, and a collapsing economy. This has led to dire humanitarian conditions for the nearly 2 million Palestinians living in Gaza. Access to clean water, electricity, and healthcare is often limited, and the infrastructure is in ruins from years of bombardment. The people of Gaza are caught between a rock and a hard place, suffering under both the Israeli blockade and Hamas's authoritarian governance. How long can a population endure such relentless hardship, and what future lies ahead for Gaza under Hamas's rule? The Oslo Accords of the 1990s promised a future of peace and coexistence, yet today, that vision seems more distant than ever. Hamas' rejection of Oslo and its uncompromising stance has often been seen as one of the key obstacles to peace in the region. But the failure of the peace process isn't solely on Hamas. Many factors, including Israeli policy and international dynamics, have played a role in the continued instability. The situation reached a fever pitch in October 2023 when Hamas launched its largest-scale attack on Israel yet, with Iran's support looming in the background. The resulting conflict has devastated Gaza and further complicated peace efforts. And now, just months later, the 2024 attacks have renewed hostilities, worsening the humanitarian crisis and adding fuel to the ever-burning fire of Israeli-Palestinian tensions. The question remains, how did we get here? And is there any way out of this conflict that has already consumed so many lives?